Welcome, world, to Life, Love, and Wellness Global, a worldwide wellness movement. I am Reverend Sandy Rogers, and as the creator of this historic event, it is my pleasure to welcome you. We come together to bring you this historic event. We have practitioners, holistic practitioners. We have medical doctors. We have spiritual individuals. This event is so lovingly dedicated to my mother, Mrs. Barbara Dean Brown. And my mother taught me like 40 plus years ago about the importance and the meaning behind herbs. And she would always say, we don't know what they putting in those pills, so you better not, get hooked on prescription drugs. And so we listened to Mom, but not all of us paid attention. My sister, bless her heart, was diagnosed recently thereafter with asthma, and she was prescribed prednisone, which is a very powerful steroid. And my sister actually got hooked on steroids, like someone out on the street kind of hooked, like on heroin or crack or something like that. And so my mom and my sister are both on the other side, living in the other dimension, but they're upholding me, and this is dedicated to their memory. So we don't want to come and make you change your mind about what you're doing. We just want to provide information to you, something different, so that you have options to choose from, so that you're not stuck. Because the environment that we now live in, the fast foods, the toxins in the air that we breathe and in the water that we drink, and the processed foods, and all of that is causing havoc on this precious body temple. So God created our bodies to heal themselves, but they can only heal themselves when they're fed and they're nourished and they're stress-free. And so the 60 or so or more experts that we have are bringing you this worldwide wellness movement in an attempt to share their testimonies and their information with you. So we have from age 14 on up. I don't even know what the oldest age is. I think 88 or something. So you see, that's a wide range of knowledge that we're bringing you. And so we hope that you come and that you get all the knowledge that you need to affect a positive change on your life, and share this with others. It's free, it's online, and so we're just so thankful that you decided to be a part of our listening community, the viewing community, and we certainly appreciate you for giving us your time of day and your energy and your efforts to being with us and to being a part of this historic event. We have pulled together people of color for you, by you, right? So we want to make sure that you understand that we too, melanated people with color, can enjoy, practice, and participate in some of these modalities that others have been doing for centuries, and that is pretty new to our community. So we talk about Qigong, we talk about meditation, yoga, spiritual work from a different perspective than religion. So we talk about the spirituality aspect. We talk about abuse in the families. We talk about all kinds of subjects because we know that in our communities there are layers and layers and layers and layers of stuff that we never talk about that's causing a negative effect on our bodies and its healing process. So we address it, whatever it is, and we hope that you will benefit from the many experts that we have, and that you walk away with lots of knowledge and lots of new information, and that you become fully empowered to share information with others. So thank you for being with us. We love you and we bless you, and we look forward to doing this again. But thanks for being here with the first one. We appreciate you.
Life, love, and wellness. Life, love, and wellness.
Welcome to Life, Love, and Wellness Global, a worldwide wellness movement. Today, it is our pleasure to welcome to the microphone Dr. Amani Mayat. Dr. Mayat, would you introduce yourself to the worldwide community, please?
It would be my pleasure. Dr. Sandy, thank you so much for having me. It is truly a pleasure to be a part of this series. I'm Dr. Imani Ma'at. I am a health educator, and I have pretty much blended my love and work with public health with poetry, haiku poetry in particular. And so most people, when they think of public health, they think of vaccines, maternal and child health, HIV prevention, epidemics, flu epidemics and so forth around the world. But there's so much more to public health. And as a health educator, I worked at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention here in Atlanta for 22 years as a health scientist, as a researcher, as an educator. We worked with health departments, community-based organizations, religious organizations, international organizations to provide funding, to provide technical assistance, to provide education. And so that has been sort of the backdrop for me for many, many years. And I love doing that work. And I also have loved writing poetry. All of my life I have enjoyed writing poetry and sort of writing it and then sort of putting it off in the corner somewhere, not even really putting my collection together. And I learned haiku poetry in elementary school. Haiku is an ancient Japanese form of poetry that uses just 3 lines, 17 syllables to tell a really big story. So I was introduced to it in elementary school, and I thought everybody had been introduced to it in elementary school. And I realized how fortunate I was in terms of the school system that I went to outside of New York City, in New Rochelle. However, at one point, and I've always loved teaching, at one point I took a Montessori training program in New York City, in Harlem actually, Champ Montessori program, and it was so good. And one of the things they taught was how to use haiku poetry in your teaching with the children. And I really, at that point, started writing it again and realized that there was a way to apply it. Once I got into public health, there was a way to apply it to stories and lessons learned and so forth in health and wellness. Not just, public health is the community level, the broader level, and doctors pretty much focus on individual health and wellness. So what I've done is sort of blend the whole thing. Let's look at what happens with the individual as well as the community, and let's use poetry to help reinforce stories. When I first started working with children and with schools, I would go into a setting and talk with it. Sometimes I'd bring djembe drums and shaker-rays and things, because the first thing I wanted to do was kind of to kindle their creativity. So they always enjoyed it, always laughed, had a good time, had fun. And I remember asking, and so I would have them, we'd talk about a health issue. I would do a PowerPoint up front to give some of the science and background about the issue. And I started evaluating the sessions because I wanted the feedback from the children and from the mentors and the teachers. What works, what doesn't work. I actually got a postdoc fellowship from Morehouse School of Medicine, University of Alabama, and Tuskegee to evaluate this series, which I call the Healthy Haiku series, education series. It actually won an award, so I call it my award-winning Healthy Haiku program. But I remember when I first started evaluating, one of the questions was, what did you like the most? What did you like the least? Would you recommend this to your friends? And I always got glowing reports, but what did you like the least? PowerPoint. Hated it. And I was like, oh, the kids don't like PowerPoint. That's something I was doing professionally with adults. The kids are like, we don't need all of that. Let's just do the fun part. So I took out PowerPoints, and I do not do PowerPoints even for adults when I'm doing this workshop. So my goal is to make it fun. You know, health and wellness information can be very boring. You know, statistics and what you shouldn't do, what you should do. And when I go in with audiences, even with from the youngest child to the oldest, I make them the experts. I turn it over to them. Let's talk about nutrition. And I'll say, tell me some things that are healthy to eat. And they will mention, you know, the fruits, the apples, bananas, the tangerines, oranges, lemons, limes, pears, and then even the vegetables. They'll talk about, you know, eating, you know, kale and salads and avocados. I noticed one thing: the older the folks get, when I go from kindergarten to 4th grade, on the good list, they're trying to sneak in, can we put fried chicken on the list? No. Can we put pizza on the list? But I would turn it into a teachable moment. I said, because you're going to eat pizza anyway, so here's some things you can do to make your pizza healthier. And so we would talk about even vegan cheese. You can now get on in some pizza places, and putting on vegetables, putting the broccoli and so forth, instead of just cheese and pepperoni and all those things that are going to make you sicker. So I would use it as a teachable moment. And then, of course, we would brainstorm about the things that are not so healthy, and they were real clear about that. You know, they get right into the meats, the sugar, the salts, the things that they like to eat, the macaroni and cheese. They would always have a good list. And so under the good, the not so good, we would have consequences. What are the consequences of eating those things on the bad list, or eating too many of them or too often? And they would say, well, you can get diabetes. It's amazing how smart children are. Kindergartners, you can get diabetes, you can get cancer, you'll become obese, you'll have trouble walking. They give you the whole list. And there's always one child that says, well, you know you could die. And I'm like, thank you, that completes our list. So we have this complete list on the board of words and phrases around good food, not so good food, and consequences of eating bad food. And from that, we start pulling off words and writing poetry. And so they take those phrases and those words and turn them into the haiku poetry, which is so easy. You know, I'm like 5 syllables on the first line, 7 syllables on the second, and 5 on the third. One person would start, and then they would just kind of create the story. And the story is very quick, but very powerful. And a lot of times I would share my poems with them. If they got stuck, I'd share some of my examples from the books that I've written 3 books now, and I'll talk about the third one, which is about childhood obesity. But they would, you know, again, take the words from the board, and I would encourage them to tell a story. You know, tell a good story, or tell a bad story, or tell a fun story about the things we've been talking about. And so I know for the very young ones, I would always encourage them to use color, vivid color and images, so that you can remember that story. There's one that my granddaughter and I wrote about eating a pear. I love to eat pears in my little blue rocking chair with my big brown teddy bear. And there's probably too many syllables in there. I don't know if we use brown, but you get the picture of the pear, the blue rocking chair, the teddy bear, and that child is going to remember about eating pears and how much joy it brings to them. There's a section that in my first book we did on violence. And there's a poem that I wrote that says, when he pulled back his fist, he stared at the lifeless face of his best friend. And so you can just see it, and you can feel the pain in that. Almost 2 weeks after writing that particular poem, I saw that on the 6 o'clock news, how 2 kids who were best friends got into a brawl. One of them hit the other in the temple and killed him. And so it becomes a discussion around alternatives to violence, alternative ways of resolving conflict and disputes, better ways of thinking, better options for just living. In fact, that's the name of the program that I'm managing at the county jail program. It's called Options for Living and Learning, where I actually have taken this strategy, and I'm working with inmates, and I call them my students, not inmates. It just feels better. I mean, I know what they are and who they are, but I don't define them by their orange jumpsuits, because we've all made mistakes. We've all made decisions that were not in our best interest, and so, or out of desperation or out of fear. So myself and the other instructors who are there, you know, we try to bring them new options, new ways of looking at life, ways of expanding their lens around life so that they have more options. They have more stories that they can choose from in terms of resolving things that come up. One of the young guys that I have, I think he's about, couldn't have been more than 17 or 18. And he was telling his story of why he was there. And he says, well, you know, my parents were away, and it was just me and my younger siblings, and I had to feed them. So I had to steal food to feed them. And we're like, well, did you really have to steal food? You know, there are food pantries. There are so many places that could have helped you and your family, you know, in that moment. So we just look at ways of expanding. So I really enjoy the haiku. Within my own program of the haiku, I've blended in lots of other topics like forgiveness, love, the Ho'oponopono, which is an ancient Hawaiian system of resolving conflicts. 4 statements: I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you. I have everybody all over the jail saying the Ho'oponopono. And it's just so, you know, it's just so sweet. So I know that this work is changing lives, from the very young to older folks. Again, one of the reasons I decided to start working with adults was because I said, you know, you can do this work. You can teach children about nutrition, about not smoking, drinking, using drugs, and all of that. But if you're not working with the parents, especially the mothers, because the mothers are the primary nurturers, and they're the ones that do the food shopping for the most part. So I worked with the Center for Black Women's Wellness. I had a contract with them some years ago, and that was amazing. You know, we did the poetry, we did role play. You know, I'd give them a for instance, you know, and let them take it and run with it. And just seeing people learn about health and wellness in such a fun way. It doesn't feel like work. You know, once I started doing this, I sort of off and running, and it just never ever felt like work.
Yes.
So Ho'oponopono is an ancient Hawaiian strategy for resolving conflict at the individual and family and community level. And it's 4 statements. The basis of it is 4 statements, but it's a lot deeper than that. It's I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you. And it's a mantra that you say to yourself to replace the negative thinking, the negative chatter. I should have done this, I could have done this, I'm so mad at myself for doing this, why didn't I do such and such, I'm so mad at her for. So instead of just that mindless chatter going on, you replace it with something positive. I love you. And talking to yourself, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you. And so what it does is it really raises your vibration. And a lot of the work that I do, even with the haiku, is meant to help people to raise their vibration so that they can work and move more effectively in the society. So, and I've had amazing success with that in the jail, because that's someplace you want to give people tools to resolve conflict in a better way. So I've had, there was one woman, she was just so wonderful. She came in, she was so excited. She said, I used the Ho'oponopono. And I said, really, what did you do? She said, well, my daughter was trying to pick a fight with me. I was talking to her on the phone, and she said, I just stopped and said, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you. And the daughter said, did you just say you love me? She says, yes, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you. And guess what the daughter said in response? She said, I love you more. End of conflict. Because whatever the conflict was didn't compare to the love, which is why they are still connected in the first place. But people need to hear it. We don't say I love you that much to our loved ones because we're in such a fast-paced society. We're moving so fast, we're worrying about problems, and I imagine being in lockup, in jail, it's hard to keep family stuff together. It's hard to keep your finances together. A lot of the problems just become insurmountable sometimes, and we turn on each other. You know, we turn on our family, we turn on the other inmates, you know, folks who are there. So this tool has really, I see bonding, I see mentorship with some of the older guys and the younger guys. You know, we always worry about abuse and you know, and people bullying and so forth in those settings. And I'm seeing like real friendships develop and real caring for each other. You know, I've seen grown men break down, tears, you know, because they had that Oprah Winfrey aha moment. It's like, wow, okay, this is amazing. And just the love just starts pouring out of them. You know, I had one guy, he was leaving. He had been one of my students, and I saw him progressing. He was one of those mentors that I spoke about. And he was in class on Monday. He called himself King. And I asked him one day, just kind of facetiously, I just want to hear him to say why he called himself King. He says, well, you know, I just want to be a role model for these younger brothers. I want them to know that there's a way out and that there's life after being here, and that this is just part of their journey. So I was leaving. That was on a Monday. On Friday, I was there for classes as well. And I was leaving. No, I was coming in. And somebody yelled at me, Ho'oponopono. And I'm like, what? And when I got out the car, I realized it was King. He had been released, and he was just coming in to handle some paperwork or something. But I was just it just brought me so much joy, you know, to see him on the outside, to have him remember the Ho'oponopono and the work that we had done together. So it's very, very, very powerful. So I've included Ho'oponopono in everything that I do in Healthy Haiku. It's kind of like Healthy Haiku meets Ho'oponopono. Who else is doing that, right? Healthy Haiku meets public health and wellness, and who else is doing that? So that's why I keep coming back to that. I do products, I do water, I do things to help build the body naturally, but I always come back to, but the Healthy Haiku is so important. You know, that's my gift to the world, if you will. And so the last book, and I mentioned it, the last book is called, it's here, Healthy Haiku 3, How to Fight Childhood Obesity, One Poem at a Time. And I love this piece because it's not a poetry book. It is very much an educational tool that teachers can use, parents can use. It does what I used to do in the PowerPoints. It has the science. It will tell you the percentage of people with diabetes. It'll tell you the percentage of adults versus children. And one of the sad things is that the statistics, and because I worked at CDC, I'm very much into looking at the numbers. Well, 1 out of 3 adults is dealing with issues of being overweight and obesity. 1 out of 3 children is also at risk or, you know, dealing with issues of being overweight or being obese. That makes sense because we're all in the same families. And that's something that I have to remind children and even adults. We've somehow been conditioned or been taught that it's in our genes. So my aunt so-and-so has diabetes, my uncle so-and-so has diabetes, my grandmama has diabetes, my mama has diabetes, so I'm gonna get diabetes one day too. And I'm like, no, cancel. You're not. I said, a lot of what we're looking at are behaviors. So if we're eating the same food, we're not exercising, we're sitting on the couch and watching TV, then that's what runs in families. Habits run in families. So I've been telling even the youngest child, it's like, we're responsible for our health outcomes. Not the doctor, you know, not our teachers, not whoever is talking to us about these statistics. We have a choice of what we put in our mouth. That's why I had to work with the parents. Because the children are like, well, she does the shopping. She's the one that buys the soda. She's the one that's buying the potato chips and, you know, the other things that you're saying are not so good, Dr. Imani. So, you know, that's why I said this has to be a family project. And so even though this is not a children's book, this is a book for teachers, for educators, for mentors to work with children, to go over the things that lead to obesity, and then those outcomes that you know we don't want to think about, the things, the diseases the being ostracized by other children, being picked last for the softball team, being picked last to be participating in other sports, in volleyball and so forth, just because you're overweight. So, you know, a lot of it affects self-esteem. You've got depression issues. You've got a lot of things that happen with very young children who are dealing with issues of obesity. So this is a really good reader for people who are interested in changing that trajectory in their family. You know, we have an opportunity to look at what we're eating, to make some different choices, even gradually. You know, start drinking alkaline water all day long. You know, add some lemon to your regular water. Whatever you're doing, take it to the next step. Take it to the next level. Make sure the children are drinking water and not juices with high fructose corn syrup, which is so bad for us. Not the sports drinks that are so bad and so acidic for us. You know, every year you hear about a child who drops dead on a playing field, you know, during playing football or soccer or something, and it's like unknown causes. They have no idea what happened, but they're giving them certain aids. I won't say their full name, but people know what I'm talking about. The sports drinks are very, very acidic, and you want to alkalize. Alkalizing is what's going to give them the energy that they need, give them the oxygen that they need to perform in these sports. So all of those issues are covered in here, and there's poetry about them. So I give examples of poetry that I've written about those topics, and then I also have spaces where they can write their own poetry. So if a parent picks this up, they can sit down and read it with their child, and they can write poetry together. You know, they can have a contest. You know, that's something that I like to do when I work with children. I'll have them in the room, and I'll have them split up, and they'll work either as teams or as individuals, and they'll come up with poetry about a particular health issue, and then they get up and present about it, which is great because it also addresses that other skill of being able to speak publicly and to stand in your power when you're speaking, not fidgeting and moving around and, you know, just wiggling and giggling and putting your hand here. It's like, no, stand in your power, put your hands down, speak clearly, speak slowly, speak loudly, so that people really understand what it is you're trying to share with them. And the guys at the jail love this. They're like, oh no, man, you can't do that in front of Dr. Mahan. No, no, you have to stand still if you're speaking. And so it really just brings joy to my heart that this is having the kind of impact on so many aspects of the population. I'm working on an online training program so that I can teach people how to really use this work. It's one thing to pick it up and buy it, which I encourage everybody. It's on Amazon. Look up Healthy Haiku 3 and it pops right up. I encourage people to buy the book, but I also encourage you to get the training so that you can understand exactly what we do with the brainstorming, with the role play, with summarizing the highlights of lessons that are taught. It tells you how to teach the lessons and then how to use the haiku for them to give it back to you. In other words, yes, we've got this. You know, and you want to know when you've left the class that they really have it and they understand. And I always get glowing evaluations, even from the gentleman at the jail. There was one guy, and they always want to know about nutrition, and I always tell them, I know that you don't have a lot of choices in here, but you have families, you have people you're concerned about, you have parents, you have children. So I said, first of all, when you get out of here, the farmer's market's about a mile down the street. You know, so you want to go there and get lots of fresh fruits and veggies and organic produce and so forth. But I encourage them to think about what it is that they're eating and how that they can use this and how they can use this information later on. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. There's never enough time. Most of in the jail setting, the classes are 1 hour. And since I'm now managing that program that I had come in to volunteer to do one Healthy Haiku workshop, you see how the magic works? if it's something you're meant to do, it's like there's just this opening. The universe just supports you and says, oh no, yeah, you're going to teach there. They're going to pay you. And then in a couple of months, the woman who's running the program is going to leave. So that's your position. And I'm like, oh, if we're going to have the crystal ball to show us what, you just kind of laugh about it afterwards. Because I'm like, I'm actually the manager of all of the education programs now at this facility. And I love it because there's a lot of places we have GED programs. We have a number of things going on for people. We've introduced a new substance abuse program. We have people coming in doing the 12-step training, which is really, really powerful. There are a lot of people who are in lockup because of substance abuse issues, mostly using. So I really enjoy the work that I'm doing. And
your work is just absolutely amazing and extremely holistic in that it touches the whole person. Yes. And not just one particular part. So thank you for the work that you do.
Oh, thank you so much, Sandy.
If there's one thought or one idea, one suggestion, one token of wisdom that you could share with the world, what would that be about wellness?
Wellness has so much to do with how we feel about ourselves. I met a naturopathic doctor who was an MD, naturopathic doctor in Washington, D.C. many years ago. And we actually he came to a presentation that I made, and I was so grateful that he came. So we went out to lunch, and I said, don't you sometimes just have the urge to have a piece of chocolate cake or, something like that? And he says, it's in those times that I ask myself why I'm not loving myself more. And I said, wow, that says it all. There's a line from a movie that I always encourage people to watch. It's called Eating, the Rave Diet. You may be familiar with it. And the line from that movie is that eating is the most popular form of unassisted suicide. Wow. We do it to ourselves. And that's not a judgment, it's just a fact that we do it to ourselves. So I encourage people, we Google everything, we look up information about everything we want to know. And sometimes we mention something about health and wellness, like, really? Well, what is that? And how do you? I'm like, you have a computer, you have a phone, Google it, look it up. I don't have to be explaining, I don't have to be hand-holding people who really want to know, who really want to make a change in their lives. People have come out of cancer, have come out of adult, onset type 2 diabetes, have come out of things where doctors had told them, you're going to be on medication the rest of your life, ching, 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 ching. And, that's all that we can do for you. And God bless them. I mean, the medical establishment, the allopathic society are very important. So we tell people, get the diagnosis, find out what's going on. They're going to give it a name, so take that name, but then look at things that you can do to change your own health outcomes. Are you drinking enough water? Are you eating too many starches? Are you eating too many processed foods, too much sugar, too much salt, the sodas and all of that stuff? Just pull back on that, make the healthier choices. So that's my thing, is about self-love and better choices in terms of what we're doing with our health. And so may I give a website?
Sure.
For people to, healthyhaiku.com. That's healthy, HEALTHY, haiku, HAIKU.com, healthyhaiku.com. You can also find more of my work under DrImaniMaat.info. So it's DrImaniMaat.info. And I'd love to speak to people. They can find me on Facebook. They can find me on Twitter under Healthy Haiku. Let me see. Facebook is Healthy Haiku. Twitter is Healthy Haiku. And you can also email me at imanimaat@gmail.com or drimani@healthyhaiku.com. So there are lots of ways to reach me. I'm excited about this upcoming training. I'm only going to do it for like 10 people the first time, so they're going to get lots of hand-holding and attention and my time. So, please don't hesitate. My phone number is 404-702-4382. I have no problem taking calls. If it's a bad call, I'll just block you. So we always have that option, right? But thank you so much for the opportunity to share, Sandy.
And thank you.
And wellness. Life, love, and wellness.
John Jackson from Comfort Farms, Executive Director of Stag Vets, and we created Comfort Farms to help veterans out. And Sandy is wanting some of these delicious collard greens that we have. We have a bed of collards. These guys are great because all we have to do is pick from the outside and they continue to grow. And everything is grown here organically. We pay attention to the actual micronutrients in the soil. And these guys have done really, really great. So I hope you enjoy them. What do you plan on doing with them, Sandy?
Well, some I'm going to use in a smoothie, and
yeah,
some
yeah.
I'll use as a wrap, in a wrap.
Good, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Beautiful.
They look delicious, though.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, these are great. So
what made you start Stag? You say Stag Farm?
yeah, Stag Vets.
Stag Vets.
Yeah,
Comfort
so-
Farms.
Yeah, I started this farm to help vets like myself. I'm a 100% disabled vet, and just looking for something to do to kind of occupy my time, kind of keep my mind off of war, and or just help work through the issues that I had because of war. And the VA didn't have much things going on for me for veterans like myself, so I decided that I would just create my own nonprofit, and my vision was to use farming as a way for us to kind of work back into the system of things, and it's been really, really great, and so that's kind of where this all developed from.
Because you went the traditional route originally, right? As far as dealing with post-traumatic stress syndrome?
Yeah, and they gave me so many pills. A lot of that, I developed type 2 diabetes because of just being on so many different drugs that just inhibited my testosterone. I went from doing a lot of things, being a very active guy, to just sitting on a couch, and I just thought the VA was trying to kill me, and so I decided that I would just go ahead and take my life back, take my health back by doing something that's completely natural, and there's nothing better than actual, farming and being out here in the dirt, working every day, seeing your progress, your labor. It's like you plant something, you fight Mother Nature, she wins most of the time. But it's one of those things that you get these small victories, and you got small victories.
Yes, that's beautiful.
Let's go get you some dino kill.
Yes.
Yeah, one of our main things that we're looking to do, Sandy, is rural America, in particularly rural Georgia, is suffering a lot. The economic situation might be great in the cities, in the big cities, but down here in the country, it's not. And I see a way where there can be a symbiotic relationship between our cities and rural Georgia, where we can grow the food that a lot of our city folks need to eat. If you think about how many pounds or tons of food comes that, let's say, Atlanta eats, right? How many tons of corn, tomatoes, beans do they go through every single day? How much of that is coming from Georgia? If only a quarter of that came from Georgia, it'll probably be a huge significant impact on our rural communities. And so as a nonprofit, veteran ran, I'm looking to kind of create that system and the infrastructure where we can help our small farmers and family farms in particularly give the people what they want, which is access to more local, sustainably raised foods.
So you're helping the vets by providing them an outlet to work through some of the issues that they've had while they were in service.
Yes.
And you're also helping the general public by providing real food to them, which I call God's groceries.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And two, it's like, because vets, we never want to stop serving. I mean, you think about it, we go to war so we could serve our country. When we come back home, we don't want war to define our service. We want to continue to serve. And so I think that's the biggest problem that many vets have, is that they don't have an outlet to serve. And what better way to do that than to raise good food, right?
Yeah.
So,
Helping other people. Yeah.
helping other people, and that's it. And our children, like I grew up, no dig on my mom or dad, but I grew up in a time where processed food and cheap commodity food was the law of the land, right? And so we didn't grow up like our grandparents eating, raw milk and eating like healthy fats and eating pork that was like unbelievably nutritious for you. We grew up with all this commodity stuff that really has a bad impact on you. And so my generation is going to see a significant increase in heart disease, obesity, and things like that. You look at a lot of these World War II vets, they're up in their 90s. They're slim and trim. Why? Because they started off eating farm food, like just all those type of things. Not like us, And so, and that's the thing. I really want to get that back. I want my children to experience, what I didn't. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I made a comment earlier about your daughter. Like, what a wonderful opportunity for a child to grow up watching this food grow from out of the ground. Because, I really think a lot of our children don't even understand that it comes from out of the ground.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. How do you like this? Is this good enough for you?
Yes, that's
okay.
beautiful.
All right.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Cool. So here's your basket.
Look at my basket, you
Your
guys. Yay. So this is the first day of their
our market.
Farmers market.
And we can go out here. It's getting a little hot.
Yeah, it's hot in here.
That's why I decided to do on-farm farmers market. So that way, I want to get people connected to their food. Yeah. When you go in a grocery store, it's nice, but you're not associated with the farmer.
That's right.
You don't know where it comes from. You don't know them personally. Yeah. When did we start getting to this place? I mean, food is a communal thing. It's like we that's what brings stubborn men and women to the table. And it's just like to go in a place where you don't have any interaction with anybody, and it's just this process. Some people laugh at us across the world. They're like, what do you mean, you guys? You like going to the supermarket and all that kind of stuff. How come you don't grow your food? So, I mean, that's the society that we're in. But if we could do our part by helping people get connected to their food, to their farmer, know where their food coming from, and be educators and ambassadors, it's all really about policy making right now, because, the amount of farmers, we're losing the amount of farmers in the next 10 years, right? So, like, our kids, we need to be teaching them about farming, about agriculture, because they're going to be the policy makers and shifters. If they're not there to advocate for small family farms and things like that, we're going to lose it. And a lot of these folks are, like a lot of these family farms that are moving, they're getting older and they're selling the farm. Their children aren't taking over the farm, so they're being bought up by corporate farms. And America don't even know it. In the next 10 years, you're going to have a large swath of American heartland owned by corporate farms, big corporate organizations, many of them foreign, growing food here. And we're going to wake up one day and be like, what happened to family farms? Where got the bees going on over there?
Yeah, we got a good I took a good movie of them as he was checking them.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Good deal,
yeah.
good deal, good deal.
All right.
deal. The
So,
honey, oh yeah, go ahead. No, the honey tastes has a very lemony flavor to it, and so we know that they love lemon thyme, and our lemon thyme is in full bloom right now, and also the privet is in full bloom, and honeysuckle is in full bloom. So those guys are making some good honey right now.
so you had said privet earlier. What is that?
So privet is a Japanese plant. It's an invasive plant. They brought it over because it makes nice, beautiful hedgerows and things like that. But we hate privet. You know, like Americans typically hate privet. When I used to hunt, I noticed that all the deer, all the hogs, and everything would eat privet. And for some reason, you watch an animal eat, you're like, okay, there must be some nutritional value there. So I did research, and privet is a really good source of food for wildlife and stuff. So it grows out here. The bees love privet. It's high nectar producing plant. Great for pollen because they need that pollen to help their brood, and then they also need to make nectar as well for honey, so that way it sustains them as well. So, but yeah, the hogs are great because what I like to do is I'll put animals out into a field and kind of see what they like to eat more of than others. Like they'll pass through some things and this, that, and the other thing, and hogs almost have like a taste palate like a human in a sense too, you know. So one day I put them in my okra patch, and I figured they'll eat all my okra pods. They passed over the okra pods and went straight for the leaves, and they were eating the okra leaves. And I'm like, is the okra leaves, are they edible? And I did research on it, and the whole plant, the okra, is edible. From the leaves to the stem to the flowers, everything is edible. And those the leaves, you cook them up like spinach. And so I never knew that had I not seen my hogs like jumping over each other just to eat okra leaves. So I can't wait to have okra leaves this year. And it's something that you don't typically see. And it's interesting because a lot of the African like plants that derive from Africa, the whole plant is edible versus just certain parts of it, you know. So it's like, you know, squash here, it's you just eat the squash, you know, but like if it was an African squash, it'd probably be totally edible on everything. It's just my observation.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So how did you start?
Literally, I started with a vision, just planning and looking at the end game of where I want to be, and then work backwards, you know, and kind of what impact I want to make on in a veterans community, my personal life with my family, and also just, you know, being able to help people. So it was just really coming up with a good, solid plan, and then follow through on everything that I need. So yeah, once I put that plan in place, I started working. The hardest thing to do is, like, you know, you start, you might not have enough money, you might not have any impact, and a lot of people don't understand that you have, you know, where I don't have actual funds to do things, I do have social currency, right? And I think a lot of folks devalue what their social currency is, you know, and social currency is huge because it is what connects you to people, is what connects people to your mission and things like that. And so I really doubled down on the amount of social currency that I had, and now I'm here, you know, in 2-year period. So just kind of taking, like, you know, not taking no for an answer, or, you know, like people say you can't do this, you can't do that. I look at it as a challenge, you know, like I can do anything, you know. And I get farmers that come here and they say, man, it looks like you've been here for like 7-10 years, you know. And I said, I know, but that's just how I work, you know. It's like, you know, I was here till 2:30 this morning, you know, getting ready for market, you know, and And we got pigs to catch up, for sent over to market, tomorrow. So it's just like it's nonstop, but I love it.
Right. So how many veterans have you served? Do you know? Have you?
Well, I could tell you. So I would say veterans in need of like serious crisis situations, we'll probably get about like over the past 2 years, I would say like significant, we're like 15 to 20 vets that were like really needing some help, you know. Um, I mean, it's nonstop on that type of thing. Um, and when that happens, everything stops, because you got to help your vet that's in need, or a family member of a vet that needs help for their vet. So, but in regards to how many people and veterans that have come visit to this place over the past 2 years, it's well over 2,000 folks that have come to visit this place. With families, we get vets that stay they bring the RVs, or they'll stay here, get a hotel, or stay in the house, and they'll just come out just to work, just to be a part of something. And we got vets all over. They're wanting me to start this thing in all the other states, so I don't necessarily have like a plan for them to start, as much as I'm making it up as I go, because there's really no blueprint for what we're doing. But it seems like the next evolution into that is doing that, is making the plans. So what I would like to do is, I want this to be totally sustainable on itself. So every state, I think, should have organizations like this that support their state, and then that state is tied. Then that organization is tied into the e-commerce of their state. So what I probably would do is get more, leave this, but advocate for everybody. Kind of do more consulting and making sure that things are done the right way. Get connected to the right people. I really see myself getting more advocacy for small communities. So, like I said, the next step from here is, after we finish setting this place up in places like this around Georgia, to do it full scale, because I think I have the ability and the know-how to kind of connect all those dots, in a really impactful way.
And tell us, how did you come up with the name Comfort Farm?
Oh, so my ranger buddy, his name was Captain Kale Comfort. He died on May 8th, 2010, which is 3 days from now, right? Kyle Comfort died. And literally during this time, in 2010, which, man, I can't believe it, that's almost 8 years ago. Wow, time has flew by. But yeah, 8 years ago, we were in Afghanistan and working on a big mission. And these were the days leading up to it. And in 3 days, he would not make it back from mission. So I had no idea that I would name the farm after him or anything, but I just knew once I got out that I needed to do something for the greater good and to help my community out, remember my brothers, and so I love Kyle. Kyle's a good dude, and I just said, let me, why don't I do something in honor of Kyle? And I already had the farm concept. I didn't know what to name it, and then I was just thinking, Comfort Farms. Like, wow, and then as soon as I said that, it was just like, oh man, that's beautiful, because a lot of people think we're using comfort as a way for healing, which is true, but Kyle was just, it's about Kyle too, about Kyle, his family, his daughter that is growing up right now, and his family, his mom, his widow, and all the folks who love and respect him. So that's what this place is about. It's about giving back, and keeping the memory alive.
I think that's a beautiful tribute to your friendship.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it keeps us honest too. You don't want to bring dishonor on your buddy who sacrificed so much to the world. He paid the ultimate sacrifice, right?
Yes.
So you wake up every morning. I wake up every morning, and I think about, how do I honor my brother? How do I honor the community, my family? How do I keep everybody? It's just that constant thing. And so when I get people that have different ideas about stuff that aren't mission focused and what I'm here about, then it's just kind of, I'm quick to cut their feet from right under them, because I don't, you're in a whole nother situation. I do this. I'm 100% volunteer to this thing. And I totally believe in transparency, making sure that our donors and our sponsors see everything that we do. And this place, how it is a result of community support. From the grassroots level.
It's so peaceful out here.
Yeah.
I mean, you just feel it. So
Yeah.
comfort
Yeah.
is a very appropriate name as far
Yeah.
as I am concerned.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. No, it is. You're absolutely right. It's a peaceful place. Good energy on this place. It's set up just right. We did good by this place by just kind of respecting the natural lay of the land and not being too invasive on what it is, and we have a good time out here. Yeah. It's a good time out here.
How large is your property?
It's 25 acres, so and we're only farming on 5 acres right now. So, and we're going to expand our hog pens to do 2 3-acre plots. So that way my hogs they spend a year in each of those plots, and they just rotate. And so by the time they get back to that first plot, it's like in year 3. That way we can go ahead, once we move them out of there, we'll go ahead, thin some trees, we'll plant some more fruit trees, plant some more nut trees, and then we'll time a harvest on our pigs during the crop drop, a heavy crop drop that they have, and that way they can finish up on figs and plums and persimmon and sawtooth oak and things like that. So makes for a delicious hog.
We appreciate you, John, so much for the work that you do, not only for our own nutrition, but for the health and the welfare of the veterans. And I'll take my hat off to you on that again. The webinar is about various areas of wellness.
Yeah.
Is there anything in closing that you would like to leave with the worldwide audience?
Yeah, so we really have to get connected to the earth, and we have to get connected to our food in every way. We should demand better. We should never settle for the cheapest. You get what you pay for, right? So, and I know a lot in our community, we're very cost conscious on food, but we're not cost conscious on material things like cars and jewelry and clothes. We spend top dollar for that, but we don't put the money in our we don't put the money where we need it most, which is our health. And so, a lot of folks, they talk about the gentrification of black spaces, where they become white spaces now, and you have a lot of white people moving into these places for farmers markets, and people complain about, the food's too expensive and it's not for us. And so one of the things that I try to focus on is, I look at other things, like I go to the barbershop in a lot of these areas that complain, and they charge more for a haircut than they do where I'm at in the city, right? The liquor stores are not coming down on prices for Ciroc or Hennessy. They're paying full price for those type of things. So it's not so much as, it's not as I say it, an issue of, white or black. It's where our value system is. What do we value most? If we value food, if we value our health more than we value material things, then we'll take the shift. And that's what we should be striving for. We should be striving to change the shift from things that are not going to make us healthy to things that will make us healthy. And we need to be enforcing that in our children. And so that's my health thing for the day, especially for my community, which I love so much, because I want to see more farms, more urban farms in urban communities and in rural communities that our folks have access to more so than the other things that that's killing us, you know. So, and if I have any part in doing that, which we will, we're going to be opening up comfort farms to socially disadvantaged children, kids without fathers, and also Gold Star children from the military whose parents who've lost a parent in war. We're going to open up our farm to these kids to have them show and compete in 4-H. We'll sponsor them, you know, we'll get them all the cool swag and everything like that so they can go in. They don't have to have a farm, this could be their farm. And our vets will make sure that they got everything that they need, because that's how you plant the seed for the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
Get them started young. They may never do anything with it. These kids are going to go off to college, they're going to move off to a big city. But then when there are policies that need to be placed for agriculture and for our food system, those kids will be connected to it, and they're going to be the ones that's going to keep this thing around, you know, whether I'm here or not. So that's my piece.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you taking time from the farmers market today, and we've had so much fun out here. And I've got my veggies, and I'm excited. And the piglets are right behind you, and they're doing what they do over there. So yeah, in the water. Love it, love it. So thank you, John. We appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Guys. What we have here is a farm. And vets who come to this farm think they are here to farm. They're not here to farm. They're here to work on life skills. And one of the things that as veterans that we lose, especially if you've been in heavy combat like I have, is emotions. You become detached, you become numb, you lose intimacy with your wife, with your kids, and things like that. I can take a vet and I can put him in the back working with a hog that's about to have a sow that's about to have piglets, or a rabbit that's about to kit, or our sheep that's about to lamb, and they're in charge of that. They're in charge of that process. And what happens is, over the course of time, these guys are working with these animals, they're raising these animals, and they're doing things with these animals and making a connection with these animals that can build a bridge back to their families and communities. And so without them even knowing it, they're working on their issues. I had a vet who's he's seen a lot of stuff, and I gave him 3 pigs, and I knew what I was doing when I did this. He's a hard charger, rock and roll and everything, and he raised these pigs for over a year. And then I come back and I come to pick the pigs up to go bring them to slaughter, and he cried. And it was an aha moment for me, because I walked over to him and I said, "Welcome home, buddy." You know, and he's like, "What you mean?" I said, "You're starting to feel emotions again. You haven't felt it in a long time." And he looked at me and his eyes got bright, and he said, "You MFer." You know, that's what he told me. But that's really what this place can do, that the drugs and everything can't do. It's to get you out here and put you in an environment that's healthy, where you could build yourself, you can build your bridge back to your family, back to your community. The reason why it's not popular, because it's not a quick fix. And everything we do is a quick fix. Take this pill. Take this pill. Take this pill. Take this pill. And by the way, take all these pills from the complications you're going to get from all the pills that I just gave you. And so that's the answer. So who benefits? The drug companies, the doctors who get the kickbacks, and the vets don't get any of that. The families don't get any of that. And so that's really what this place is about. This place is for, it's to, I'm not saying that, you know, drugs and things like that have no place. They do, you know, in some situations, but it shouldn't be the first and only choice. Okay? And so we need to use this as our open door therapy, open door office space. And I challenge all therapists I don't care if you're working with a veteran population or not. You get your group that you have, you bring them down here, and you work with them in this place. You're willing to put sweat equity into them, they're going to be drawn more to you because you can do work. It's easy to sit behind the desk and listen to my war stories and to listen to this and that, and then go ahead and assess me. But if you really want to connect with me, you come out here and let's bust our knuckles together. And if you're not willing to do that, then why should I talk to you? That's just how I feel about it.
And where is this place?
Comfort Farms.
Where in Georgia?
Milledgeville, Georgia.
Love and wellness. Life, love and wellness.
Okay, wonderful. My name is Phyllis L-Miata, and I work for the kingdom. Okay. I was given my spiritual name L back in, I want to say 2016. I was visited by a spirit, and the name and the letter L stand for love, life, and light. And then in 2017, after completing a task that spirit told me to do, I was visited and was given the name Miata, and spirit told me that's my universe name. So as I come back in through reincarnation, that is the name that I'm known by throughout the universe. So my name is Phyllis L-Miata, and it's a transformative name. It represents, I always say spirit gets to elevate you as you complete the task that spirit wants you to do. So through that elevation, it allows me to transform because it's a transformative name. So it's like sanctioning that I have come through some things, especially coming out of the third dimensional thought realm into, which is the human consciousness, into the fifth dimensional thought, which is the divine consciousness, and understanding all that represents in delivering the light that I have been told to do. My task is to teach people how to move from their human consciousness to their higher thought realm, their divine consciousness, into fifth dimensional thought. My core is with parents and the family. Come into the dimension of life. When we come into the dimension of life, life is a dimension. That energy from our spiritual realm is now divided into a dual consciousness. We enter a dual consciousness because we have to connect with the physical world. So we have this duality going on. We have the human consciousness, and we have the divine consciousness. That divine consciousness is actually the part that connects us to what we call God. Some people look at it as an entity. Some people look at it as a mental realm, a mind. And some people look at it as an energy. However you look at it, it's perfectly okay. But that is what comes with us into personification, that part of us. But the human consciousness is, like I said, it's a subconsciousness, whereas the divine consciousness is much more powerful because that is our pure thought, our pure energy. The human consciousness allows us, it's like a reservoir in a sense. It allows us to receive information from the outside world. It acts as like a depository to a certain extent, but we get to collect and connect with the outside world, the physical world as we know it. But now we have to process that information. There's going to be automatic processing of the information by the brain. Remember, the brain is real, but the mind isn't. You get to determine what's in your mind. There's going to be automatic processing the information. What we want to do is learn to process it from the divine consciousness. Remember, as you start to, in your thoughts, words, and actions, here's something you can reflect back on. If you ever had a moment where you say, you know what, I thought about that, I shouldn't have said that. Maybe I should have said it this way.
That's that second thought probably teaching you, I should have said it from my higher consciousness. So if I don't train myself to use my divine consciousness a lot, which I'm saying my higher consciousness or fifth dimensional thought, then I use my third dimensional thought, all the things that I've been taught to do in the human world, connect humanly. And that's the things like the feelings, the more of the emotional side of us. Okay, so those things, things that we learn, we should respond this way. But there's a lot of times things that we've been conditioned to do in the human world because we are humans by human beings, and we've been taught sometimes to react and respond a certain way, but we haven't conditioned ourselves to look at it from the higher consciousness, the light. What, there used to be a saying way back when, and I don't profess any religion, but there used to be a great saying like, what would Jesus do? And I thought that was a very great saying because it got you to step away from what you would do and think about, well, what would Jesus do in this situation? So, what would God do? Let's think about that for a moment. Will there be separation in our answer? Will there be a submissiveness? Will there be anger in that answer? And how would that be delivered? How would that be presented to a person? So you step back and you're like, what would God do? And just that thought, you probably think twice and say, I'm not going to say that. My thoughts, words, and actions will change.
How would you say your work intersects with the wellness of the community in general?
I would say it all boils down to energy. We are all energy. At the core of us, we are all energy. I was at an event this week and I would ask people, have you ever heard the universal laws? And someone said, have you ever heard E equals MC squared? They're like, yes. That E is think of that E as the pure energy, and the M is you, the matter of you, when you're in personification. So when we come into personification, we're still energy. We're just slowed down, okay, to where we can be seen and everything. But just think about the M. You know more about E equals MC squared than you think, because that M represents mass, which is the matter of you. You matter. You are in self. You are in personification. Personification means in person, in a physical body. This is you. But as energy is supposed to come in and we are supposed to create our world. So one aspect of being energy, think about an alkaline body. Okay, it's very important to understand our internal system, the food that we eat, and all of that, because energy is supposed to come in to us through food, through light, and we're supposed to create. But what happens sometimes is that the energy gets locked inside of us through anger, through other things that we have not really dealt with in our lives. So we have this blockage, and it can set up what we call dis-ease, or things that, or what we call low vibration. The biggest thing that I want people to understand as they move into their higher thoughts, a key component for helping them move into their higher realm is forgiveness. When I was preparing for this, I was like, God, what do you want me to say? And Spirit said, Phyllis, let the people know that forgiveness is very important to creating a new mindset. And I thought about that. I thought about even Psalms 23. And they said renew and restore and all of that. Well, what is that? When you renew, when you restore yourself, what are you saying? You have to forgive yourself to go into that renewal and into that restoration. So I would challenge people out there, make the phone call, write the letter, release it. Don't worry about what the other person thinks. And if the other person is no longer around, or they may have transitioned and they're no longer with us, write a letter to them, okay? Place it under your pillow and just speak God, let this person know, let the universe, let this person know that I'm sorry, or I apologize, I wasn't at my best, and ask for forgiveness so you can let it go. Don't think about what the other person will say. This is about you releasing, because as we release, we open the portals, we open that, what we supposed to be a conduit, and we allow energy to flow back through us. So make the phone calls, write down the names of people you think you need to offer forgiveness to, or people you need to forgive, and it's okay. It's not about them, it's about, first of all, you releasing, and now you can go create a world of light. Because when that energy is blocked inside of you, you're going to create a world of darkness. There's only two things that can come out your mouth. One that is life enhancing, light, and one that is not life enhancing, darkness. So we want to be life, but of light. We don't want to be light and of darkness. Those are two different things. So we want to learn how to think in the opposite of what's going on, not to focus on the effect, but to focus on the cause, and the cause being our thoughts, our words, and our actions. So for a lot of you who probably have a Bible, I like to say 2 Timothy 1:7 is a great understanding of the universal law of polarity when it says, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Don't focus on the fear, but focus on thinking agape loving thoughts, agape loving actions, agape loving words. Focus on, again, no matter opposite of fear, agape love, and then power. Power is the ability to create. In the human consciousness, power is the ability to submit. We want to get a person to submit to us. But in the spiritual world, just like God created the world when there's a void, when there's fear, you want the power to create. So God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, the ability to create. But we can't create if we have all that energy locked in us through anger, hate, unforgiveness. You got to release it to create the world that you want. And hopefully that world that you want, because you're at that level, is going to be of the kingdom, of which means of good, of God, of the all power that is within you. The household DNA, and we call it household DNA pyramid, but we also call it the parenting pyramid. But as I tend to grow, what I've learned about spirit, when you listen to spirit, and again, I use spirit as the part of God that is within me. I use the term God as the universe, the part of the wholeness of God, the all-powerful, the omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient. But the funny thing about it, Sandy, is when you are given a task, and you write from spirit, you sometimes don't know what you have. So it's constantly evolving, it's constantly adapting. As you start to learn and grow, you're like, wow, you see a different meaning. So in this origin, is in there are 7 spiritual principles of parenting, of household DNA. And as we start to study and teach these principles, then what occurs is we move into a higher vibration, move into a higher consciousness. So let's just explain. There are 3 parts of it too. There's the foundation, there's the backbone of this pyramid. So think of a pyramid, think of the foundation of the pyramid, and then think of the corners of the pyramid, which is like the backbone to keep the structure. And then the face of the pyramid are the nourishing parts. Well, agape love is the foundation of it. And agape love is the support system, is the state of being that we want to be in. Okay, so that covers the foundation. There's only one foundation, that's agape love. On the sides there, think about those 4 corners of a pyramid. So on the sides, you have agape love, you have peace, you have provisions, and you have protection. So those are the four corners, and those are states of being that you always want to be in that state of being. You always want to be loving. You always want to be in peace. And this, we talk about spiritual peace. We talk about provisions. Provisions mean in a state of not just wellness, but wholeness, spiritual, mental, and physical. And you want to be in what we call protection. Protection being protection of this mind, spirit, body, emotion, and all of that, the mental protection. That doesn't necessarily come from what we think about alarm systems and guns and all of that. The level of protection that is our greatest is what we put out, because what we put out is mirror back in what we get. So that's the greatest level of protection you will ever have. If you act of God, then the universe can only give you God-like things back. So you have to understand in that and stay in that mental realm of our divine consciousness, not our human consciousness. Then we have the front. The front of which you would think of the size of a pyramid. And don't worry, if you're not getting this, there's a website, you can go look at it and it's going to be great. Okay, you can study this on the website. I'm just going to say phyllis.L-Miata.com. If there's something you're not getting, trust me, it's there. Okay. So then you have the size. The size represent things that you're supposed to do daily with your family. Agape love, bless and edify, elicit wisdom, and guide. And once you get to that guide part, this is where the modification comes in from the original version to the latest version. Spirit said, I want you to put a light there. So the one that's on the website has the light, showing that now you are a light, you are a guide. Okay, you don't have to convince people what to do or convince your family members of what to do when you are exhibiting this. Okay, because now what is occurring, they are being raised in their greatness and to act and think and speak from the divine consciousness, because this is what they hear. We waste a lot of time, or we don't use our time wisely. We don't use our energy wisely when we don't practice or teach in our divine consciousness, when we do the opposite. So say what's, for example, the opposite of love is hate and anger. Okay, the opposite of blessed edification is to speak words of destruction. The opposite of wisdom is ignorance and foolishness. And the opposite of guiding a person is following them or having someone to follow instead of turn within to be the guide. When we do that, then down the road, when our kids are 13, 14, and 15, and things are occurring, okay, and someone may step in and say, we kind of have to reverse this or get to a point of self-realization, operate in the higher of who you, in the higher self of who you are, then we have to backtrack. It takes about 7 positives to eradicate 1 negative. So you have to backtrack. When I was given doing parent support groups over in DeKalb County Jail in Georgia, this was several years ago, I would tell the parents, I would say, well, write down how many times you probably curse your child out, and they'll write it down. And I said, now, in order to just mute that, you have to use about 7 positives. So if you think about what that means when a child leaves out the house or what's going on in the household, you build up all of this negative energy, and it's not a 1-for-1. If I say I dislike or something or belittle a person, it's not that I go back and say one thing. No, you have to do about 7 times. Okay, that's just to match it. Now to get above it, you have to go greater than the number 7. So these are the things that we have to realize when we deal with energy. The universal laws tells us how that energy is being used. You are using it anyway. You're creating your world anyway. You might as well be conscious of what you are doing. And that's the goal of what I do. If you are conscious of what you're doing, then you can take more of responsibility in what's happening to you. Okay? Don't focus on the effect. Focus on the cause. Instead of focus on why did the cars get repossessed, why did a car get repossessed, or why is this happening to me, trying to prevent that. The cause is, what are you thinking, what are you speaking, and what are you doing? Your thoughts, words, and actions. That's the universal law of cause and effect. So just right away, we have talked about, what, 3 universal laws? Well, maybe more than that, but definitely universal law of polarity, universal law of correspondence, that energy being in you. Talk about the universal law of vibration, the vibration of, you want to increase your vibration and focusing on what's under the God side, not under the ego, the human consciousness, but under the spirit, the divine consciousness. And I even gave you a verse to look at. But also the universal law of cause and effect. Then you have the universal law of rhythm, the universal law of gender, and the universal law of, mentalism, which is the big kahuna, because the divine consciousness and human consciousness are in our mental realm. The universe knows. We always get this debate, is there darkness in the world? I look at it from 2 ways. Well, first, the universe always knows. So there's nothing you can do that the universe doesn't know. It's a mental realm. I was watching the 10 Commandments last night, and there was a part where Moses comes back from his connection with God on the mountain. And he says, and I just heard this for the first time, as much as I watched that movie, I don't remember hearing it. He said, God is not flesh and blood. He's mental, something like that. So, it's right there in the movie, So, Spirit has told me, and God, through my work, never convince anyone of God. Never convince anyone what they have to do, because eventually our road to enlightenment is that we all going to have to turn within. And as we transition from 3rd dimensional thought through 5th dimensional thought, which is human consciousness, to divine consciousness, we all got to deal with some stuff. Okay? It plays a role in everything that we have to do. And on this earth, Mother Earth, which is using the term feminine, okay, because if we look at the universal law of gender, it is the sun, and I'm going to keep it simple, like your shining star, right? Remember Earth, Wind, and Fire, so your shining star, no matter who you are, well, that's the sun, that light that is within you. No matter who you are, that light is within you. But in the universe, it is things with the male, donated as male, gives the pattern, the instruction. So the sun gives the pattern. Without the sun, the earth wouldn't know how to revolve or where the path of revolution. But also, in a sense, we look at things in the mother form, or earth, the female, is because its ability to nourish the seed, being the father, the earth, the nourishment. But also, when we look at that second womb, the second womb is Mother Earth. Spirit gave me 2 weeks ago, last week, when I did the 12th week of the universal laws, which we talked about the spring equinox. The day before, Spirit gave me a poem, and it went something like this. This is called Enlightenment. Someone who turns back the hands of time, born in darkness, but is able to climb. Someone who turns back the hands of time, learns to walk, but is able to fly. Someone who turns back the hands of time, lives in a nest, but never is able to rest. Someone who turns back the hands of time, moves slow, but is able to go. Someone who turns back the hands of time, passes through Mother's Earth's second womb, taking flight with eagle's wings, ascends to the light. Someone who turns back the hands of time, becomes a star and guides. Someone who turns back the hands of time, lives. That poem reminds us of our born in darkness and our human consciousness, but being able to just live and ascend in our higher dimensional thought but choose to operate in the light of agape love, life, and light. And remember, it is the recognition of darkness that gives us the choice to operate in the light. Okay? And that's it. You are of God. You guys are ministers of gods and goddesses. You are creating your world. Understand how that world is being created. Understand that energy. Understand the power of the energy, because it's there with you. Understand that. Go to the website and learn the universal laws. But understand the power of the energy, the 7 Hermetic universal laws, which are taught which are delivered in simplistic ways on our website. Okay? That would be the dividing thought. You are of God. You are miniature gods and goddesses. Don't underestimate the power of the light that is within you.
Love and wellness. Life, love and wellness.
My dad, I have to go back to him because we talked about me being an entrepreneur. I've never had to work a job, never had to work a 9 to 5. The few times that I did, it was out of choice because I needed to make money, but I didn't fit. I just never fit into those environments. So eventually I just used my hands, my resources, my creativity to become self-sufficient. But I want to say my dad was an internist and a cardiologist. And in his prime in San Diego, all doctors of all races would consult with him, about cardiology matters of the heart. My dad in his prime was the chief of staff of 2 hospitals, Paradise Valley and Community Hospital. He owned a drug rehab facility. But the forgetting in the form of drugs, in the form of white women, hit that segment of the black community, and particularly those black doctors. I watched it. It was like a spell that was being cast over them because most of those doctors ended up being divorced. Some of them lost their practices as a result of their use of drugs, which the kind of drugs they were using were being brought in by the white community. They weren't. They had access to all kinds of drugs. They weren't using them before. But it was a wave of consciousness that was like a hallucination. It's a bad dream. Anyway, my dad was one of those doctors who didn't lose his license but lost his Medicaid privileges. Not for selling drugs, but for not thoroughly examining his patients. So he went into retirement for about 10 years and came back out and opened up a clinic for people that didn't have insurance. It was discount medical clinic. And he had that for about 11 years before he totally retired. So he was always a giver. He was always about serving the community, and he instilled that in me. I worked in his office from age 13 to age 22. So my 9 to 5 karma was served during that time. I have a healthy respect for people who have that level of discipline. It's necessary for a society, for a community, for people to be workers, But what are you working on is the question. Do you hate your job? Is it making you sick? Are you working just to pay bills? Is it a means to an end so one day you can have your own? So she talked about Yeah, you can use garlic, you can use lemon instead of salt. Use olive oil. Little did I know that her influence would influence me. You know, it's really cool, right? Even with my dad, he had written on the back of a photograph of me when I was like 2. When I was at the beach, and he said, "Future Meharry graduate." So he had visions of me being a doctor too, but I hated I hated Western medicine because one of the drawbacks was that, you know, we even thought we were going to be sick. They were pumping us up with pills and syrup and needles and ugh. So I was driven back to nature to learn about herbs and natural living and things of that nature. Basically from just paying attention to my own body. I had been getting strep throat a lot when I was in middle school. They ended up taking out my tonsils. Shortly after that, I remember having some dairy, some cereal and milk, and I just had all this gooky mucus. And I noticed that every time I had it, I had all this gooky mucus. And I noticed when I didn't eat all that dairy, that didn't have the gooky mucus, you know? So to me, it was a no-brainer. Nobody had to tell me that. My body wisdom was beginning to talk to me at that age. So I started not drinking milk. I started just cutting back on certain things and just not eating as much of it. But I was definitely an omnivore. I ate everything. You know, if it wasn't nailed down, I was willing to try it at least one time. And I never liked chitlins, though. I could never get past the smell. I was not a chitlin eater. But I did love ham hocks and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, even though I went through a period of condemnation of that kind of food and people who ate it, because I did become a vegan snob in my latter food journey, I had to come full circle to recognize that the foods that we ate during slavery sustained us. It was a slave diet. It's what we had. It's all we had. Big Mama, Uncle Joe, Aunt Bessie. They made something out of nothing. They made something out of whatever the scraps were on Massa's table, so that we could work from can't see in the morning to can't see at night. Now they did have fresh herbs. We had fresh water. They had fresh water back then, fresh air. And to do that type of labor, you had to have the food that they say that sticks to your ribs. You had to have it or you pass out. You couldn't survive without it. We didn't have obesity then, though. Yeah, my dad was saying that I was going to be a future Meharryite. And, you know, I didn't go into Western medicine at all. I'm a healer. I use food as medicine. And before my dad died at the beginning of this year, in one of our many wonderful conversations we had, I told him, I said, "Daddy, you got your wish." I said, "I heal food as medicine." And he looked at me, he says, "Oh, well, isn't that something?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "You know, so many times we think a thing has to come a particular way. But when we're open to what God or the universe or the ancestors are showing us, we see it's right before our eyes. It's there." And on that note, I do want to say I'm tearing up because in this moment, because my dad and my stepmom left their bodies on the 4th of January this year. They left on the same day. Yeah. And my mom left in 1996. So she's been gone 18 years. But my dad and my stepmom proved for me the fact that soulmates really do exist and that true love triumphs and transcends all place, space, time, situation, and circumstance. And that what a soul wills, it can accomplish. A little side note for them. because spirituality is so very much a part of my life. Spirit is everywhere anyway. There's no place it is not. We just acknowledge it in compartments. I am learning to live always connected to it, always aware of it. I'm thankful for that level of consciousness. But my dad and my stepmom started seeing each other when he was still with my mother. But my dad was seeing a lot of women when he was with my mother. So I couldn't hold that against my stepmom. And I didn't even find out until later that they were together, you know, when she and I were talking about some things. And I started putting two and two together. And I was like, oh. But the story that she and my father tell is that they started seeing each other after the divorce. But that was not the case. Anyway, she was 25 years younger than him. She was actually 2 years younger than me. It was a testimony in many ways to the fact that my father, as bougie as he could come across, really loved the beauty of African women because she was a chocolate sister. She had a very short afro, like just, you know how you see some of the sisters with their head shaved. Not totally bald, but it was very low like that. It was never longer than an inch, rarely an inch. That's how I wore my hair back in the days before I locked my head. So, my father always loved when my hair was shaved. He loved that look. He did learn to love my locks, but not until like maybe about 5 years ago. So, my journey with my father was an interesting one, to say the least. But my stepmom hung in there. She and my father eventually married. They were together about 40 years, but they were married about 35. And it taught me a lot about relationships, their being together. Because I asked my dad, you know, what made him choose her out of everyone? And he said because she made him laugh. You know, she just had this great sense of humor, and she did. And another thing he said, which endeared me to her, was that he would get so frustrated because he'd give her his credit card to go shop, and she'd come back with sweaters and jeans, and so she wasn't a gold digger. So she and I were always good. Toward the end of their lives, though, he was miserable and didn't want to be here. If he couldn't practice medicine, he didn't want to be here. He was very clear about his life's purpose. And she didn't want to be here because she didn't see herself without him. I really experienced what it was like for an adult, to commit their life to someone else through them. My mother had her own life, and although she loved my father and loved us, certainly, my stepmom's life was all about my dad. And you know, it was just a different kind of love, such that they had a euthanasia suicide situation going on, and I don't say that lightly. Their last couple years were very, very hard on everyone, especially on them. I saw the devastation of alcoholism and pills, sleeping pills primarily, you know, and that's what took them out. A broken heart from their lives ending the way that it did. My stepmom not being able to bring joy to my father, because that's what she lived for. Although she had her own job, her everything was about my father. And my father just did not want to be here anymore because he had fulfilled his life's purpose and he wanted out. So as souls, they made that very clear. And so when my stepmom left, we were at least myself. I was surprised, but not, I was surprised, shocked, but not surprised. Because she, before I left to come back to Atlanta, she and I had a conversation where she was saying, oh yeah, your dad and I want me to go first. I had to talk him into it, she says, because I really, don't want to be here if he's not here. And, I want to be able to lead first. And I said, well, what if your plan doesn't work? And she says, hadn't thought about that. And she hadn't said what her plan was. So I didn't know that she was serious about leaving the way she did. But, just to keep it on a higher frequency, she had come down with the flu. My dad had been hospitalized a couple of days after I had left town with the flu. He had been heavily sedated because he didn't want to go to the hospital to begin with. Because I think he knew he was going to, in fact, not think, I know he knew he was getting ready to leave. And he would have preferred to leave from the house as opposed to a hospital. So he was fighting the doctors and the nurses, so they just sedated him. So my stepmom just kept saying she had to get some medication so she could just sleep off the flu. And she kept saying, don't call her for a couple of days, because she just wanted to rest. And I said, well, let me call this mutual friend and he'll come and bring you some fresh squeezed juice. And she's like, no, I don't want to see anybody. I just want to, rest. So, not expecting that was her exit time, I said, okay, well, I'll call you in a couple of days. Call me if you need me. So she said, okay. So 2 days later, I got a call from my brother that she was gone. They had gone to the hospital to see my dad, who wasn't conscious because he was sedated. And when they got back, they went to check on her, and she was gone. And that was about 2 in the afternoon, and she left between 10:30 and 11:30. So when my brother called me and told me, like I said, we were shocked, but not surprised. Later that evening, I was talking with my children, my 2 younger children who had come to the house, and we were having a prayer vigil because some of their friends came over to be supportive. And in the meditation, I saw my stepmom. She was a light body. She was outlined like there was neon light around her form. It was a silvery blue. I saw her come, and she appeared really, and she was hovering over my father's bed in the hospital, and I saw her reach her hand out to him, and I saw his etheric body reach his hand up to her, and he started getting up out of his body, and then the vision went away. So I told everybody, I said, Daddy's going to be leaving real soon. I called my brother and I told him. That was maybe around 10 that night, 10 Atlanta time. So I got a call at about 2:30 Atlanta time from my brother. He said, Daddy's gone. My father left at 11:55 that night. My stepmom came and got him. She said, you better come on while this portal is open. And my dad got up and made it through that portal with 5 minutes left to spare. Now you can't tell me that was coincidence in the way we come to think of coincidence. But coincidence really means incidences that are coinciding. That is not a fluke, but it's because the vibrational frequency is in alignment. So, that's my story, that soulmates really do exist, because they were truly soulmates. that true love transcends all place, space, time, circumstance, and situation.
That's beautiful.
And that whatever a soul wills, it can accomplish, because neither one of them physically knew that the other had left. So that's the memory that I go with them and the good times. So by the time they left, there was no sadness, it was relief, it was gratitude, it was thankfulness because of all that they gave in their lives. And even the suffering that they went through, it was such a profound lesson of what not to do. I humbly and firmly know that people really do come into our lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. They come to teach us what to do as well as what not to do. And either way, we should always thank them. Because the experience with them is a gift. Especially if what we think is done to harm us, we can get the pearls in it, and the loss, or what we perceive as the loss. When we come to have the understanding that nothing is ever really lost, because nothing ever really dies, because energy never really dies, and we are made of energy, then what happened was just an experience. And if we can learn from the experience, then it's a lesson. And then in getting the lesson, we can recognize the love that the divine has for us, so that every opportunity we are supported in this life. The divine expressing itself through our ancestors, expressing itself through the trees, the plants, expressing itself through the air, the water, the animals, the insects, each other is our divine reflections. We are loved. We are truly loved beings.
Love and wellness. Life, love and wellness.
The reason I enrolled my daughter into the program, she is 13 going on, we'll say 14, but sometimes that seems to be a lot older. And I recognize, first of all, as a student myself, the importance of training in the martial arts, of developing discipline. I realized the importance of that in my own life, and so of course as a father, that was something I wanted to share with my daughter and make sure that she had too. Sita Gu, who I've had the opportunity to train both with and under, is a tremendous instructor, and I have the highest respect for her and know that she has experience, knowledge, and also the best interest of my daughter at heart as well. So those are some of the most prevalent reasons why I wanted my daughter involved in the program and why she is.
And it's about self-defense.
It is about, yes ma'am, it is about self-defense, which for all of us as black people, as people in general, is extremely important, especially for our sisters and for our daughters. I was just reading, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, about an incident a few days ago where a Muslim woman was attacked. I believe she was delivering for Uber, one of these food companies, but she was attacked, as she delivered the food by the person she was delivering it to, who tried to grab her headscarf. And, fortunately though, this woman was trained, or at least aware enough in self-defense to defend herself, and she was able to defend herself and get herself out of this situation. But for our women, which are our most valuable resource. They must be protected, and we can't always be there. So it's definitely important for our sisters, mothers, daughters of any ages to be able to protect themselves.
So, do you practice with your daughter at home? Is that part of your routine? And why did you feel she needed to come here to the academy?
Absolutely. Those are excellent questions. I do practice with my daughter. I practice more along the lines currently of philosophy and giving her that all the time. My instructor, Sidagu's husband, Sijo Abdul Mutakabir, often emphasizes to us the martial science. So, yes, anybody can kick and punch and learn how to kick and punch, and those are valuable things. But more importantly than that is the scientific principles behind the art and learning when to do something and even how to extricate yourself from something. So, when I say martial arts, I look at it as a holistic thing, not just the self-defense aspect, but self-defense on many different levels. So, hopefully I answered the question.
You did.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And so, as we were talking earlier, this webinar is about increasing a healthy lifestyle for everyone, especially those that may not know of the various modalities that a person can use. So, what would be your advice or your suggestion? Any words of wisdom that you would have for our community, and as far as making sure that we maintain and sustain a healthy lifestyle?
Well, that's an excellent question and profound. Back, from when I was younger and I used to go to church, I remember being taught and shown in scripture that it says, "If you seek, you shall find." So, I guess my advice would be to seek after healthiness, seek after a positive lifestyle, seek after these things, read and research, and if you seek after these things, it'll be provided to you. So, there's so much misinformation in society, and too many of us are living oblivious, fast food lifestyles, all of these things which are detrimental to us. I mean, more and more of us are going to the grave earlier and earlier in ways that can be prevented. So what I would say is just seek after health, seek after life. Pay attention to your diet, to rest, nutrition. Martial arts is an excellent start and foundation for this. Yoga, Qigong, Tai Chi. These are sciences which, if we take advantage of, can be applied to our lives for a greater lifestyle, greater health, and, seek that out and ask for the best way for you, and it'll be provided to you.
I am Halima Freeman. I've been training with Sidagu since 2001 and on and off. So I've had 4 children. 2 of them were very small when I first started training with her, and they trained SWAM system as well. And of course, children growing up with different issues or different things you have to deal with, it was on and off for me. And then I had a baby, actually 2 dojo babies training here. So my 12-year-old, I trained all the way until he was almost here, actually, like a week or 2 before he came. And then my 6-year-old, which was our biggest surprise, I trained with her until maybe a month before she came. And then, of course, between my 12-year-old and my 6-year-old, I stopped training. Then I came back. And then after I had my 6-year-old, I stopped training for a while, maybe 4 years. And then came back to train again because that was the missing factor in my journey to wellness, was martial arts, because I love martial arts. So I didn't know I loved it until I started doing it. Then when I started doing it and I stopped, every time I stopped, I said, okay, I'm missing something. And this last time, of course, my 6-year-old came, big surprise. She came when I was 37. And so just adjusting to that, and then maybe last summer, I was like, okay, I'm missing something very important here. And it was martial arts. So I started training again. And that's been a wonderful experience for me. It's the one thing that I know works for me when it comes to just being well mentally, physically, emotionally. When we're in class, class is physical. It's very physical. It's martial arts, but it's also learning to trust your instincts, learning to trust yourself. It's giving me like better self-esteem. I'm more confident about decisions that I make because I'm learning to trust myself, trust my instinct, trust who I am as a woman, enjoy who I am as a woman, regardless of what stage I'm in as far as weight or mental or just all of that. And I get that from Sidagu training martial arts. Been a beautiful experience for me. And for all of my children, we've trained under the SWAM system. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. I didn't know you could do martial arts when you were pregnant.
Mm-hmm. Yep. She adjusted what needed to be adjusted. So maybe when we start class, we do jumping jacks. She just adjusted my jumping jacks, so I wouldn't put so much pressure with the bounce, with the jumping. I still did them, but she altered the way that I did them. And certain stretches, she would say, don't do this stretch, or do this stretch instead. So, yes, all the way. My last two, all the way up until almost labor.
Great. So, Halima, we're our intention is to provide suggestions, recommendations for people to get to maintain and sustain a healthier lifestyle. Do you have any particular recommendations for individuals that will be listening to this?
I would say the most important thing for me is to just move and be confident in finding something to do where you're very active, where you're, and if you're not sitting down all day, or if you have a job where you sit down all day, get up, move. I have a job where I sit down a good part of the day. So I have my own homeschool business. So part of the time I'm sitting, part of the time I'm standing. But anytime during that day, I can get up and do something that we do in class, a few jumping jacks, punches, something physical.
We are here in the studio of Odette Russell of the SWAM Academy of Martial Arts. And so Odette is going to explain some moves to us. There she is.
Hi, guys. Well, let me give you my title. My name is Grandmaster Sidagu Dr. Odette Russell. So that's a big mouthful. And basically, I'm a Grandmaster in the SWAM Martial Arts Academy. I've been training for 38 years. And within the 38 years and teaching for 25 years, I earned the rank of Grandmaster. I'm an 8th degree black belt. Sidagu, which is another title, Sidagu, is titled Mother of SWAM, top female instructor. Okay, and I have a PhD in health psychology, so I'm Dr. Odette Russell. What I'm going to present to you is something different than self-defense. I believe that any school can teach someone how to kick and punch, but what I do in my workshop is life defense. And that is a combination of my martial arts training and my education and being raised in the Boogie Down Bronx, New York. Okay, there's a sense of what is obtained through martial arts is the building of pride, the love of self, the heightened of confidence and self-esteem, and that comes with the martial arts training. But with life defense too, it's what's going on inside, what's going on deep inside. Sometimes we've had situations and circumstances that might have occurred 10 years ago where we're unconsciously sabotaging ourselves, dating the same kind of guy, going for the same kind of dead-end job, giving ourselves self-doubt all the time. So through my psychology education and the martial arts, I've came up with the life defense workshop. There's, in my perception, more danger that we put in ourselves than anyone else coming to attack us. So my workshop is more designed to focus and build what's going on inside. And of course, I can teach you guys how to kill somebody in seconds in 50 different ways, but more important is how to avoid putting yourselves in those type of situations. And I'll demonstrate some stuff because I know that's why you're here. You want to see that. But let's also talk about what's going on inside, or what type of practices or activities that we participate in that puts us in danger or jeopardy or in unhealthy circumstances. So what I like to go into, and when you get to know me a little better and get to talk to me more, is talk about different things like sleep deprivation, how important sleep is. That's the only time your body can rebuild itself. How to manage and control stress. Stress is everywhere, but stressors are not just physical stress like someone's trying to attack us, or emotional stress like how we feel when we see an unexpected bill, but stress is also chemical stress, that we're surrounded by about 900 different chemicals daily. It's not necessarily exposed and absorbing us, but we're surrounded by it. And our body has to detoxify that. That's stress. When we eat unhealthy, nutritional stress, by not having enough nutrients and chemical and minerals in our body, that puts stress on our bodies. So that's another issue that I always like to focus on. The issue of spinal health. You know, how the only way our body is going to be able to function is if the brain is able to tell the body how to function or what to do, and that's only through the spinal cord. So we have to make sure our central nervous system can flow smoothly. That's another issue that I like to focus on. How gut health is important, and that plays a big role in our nutritional intake as well as exercise. So I like to apply all the parameters of wellness, not just about, how to take somebody out in 30 seconds, but what are we doing inside our body and keeping us strong and keeping us healthy. Now, what martial arts implements in that is the ability of enhancing self-love. If I love myself more, if I cherish who comes around me, then I'm going to cherish what I put inside my body. And that's what I love about the martial arts. Okay? So, just real quick, this is the founder, Cedar Abdul Mutakaber. He founded the Swan Martial Arts Academy. The Swan Martial Arts Academy is 40 years old. It's a hybrid of numerous traditional martial arts systems, from karate, kung fu, jiu-jitsu, and kickboxing. And in order for him to blend those systems in his system, he had to become a black belt within those systems. He had started training when he was 11, and he's 66 years old now, so you guys can do the math, all right? I met him when I was 18, and that's when I started training, so you could do the math how old I am, all right? And this is the Swan Martial Arts, where champions are trained by a champion. And so, real quick, I just wanted to show you some stuff to give you an idea of how I train my students, which are primarily females. And as I was saying, I am an open hand fighter. So although I can teach you how to throw hooks and be a boxer, to me, what's most effective is rip and tearing. Okay? All right? It's just being like effective in how we can go after the primary sources of the human body and create instant damage. All right? Now, I like simplicity. The simpler it is, the more effective it is in the street. So I have like a little drill. It's called eyes, throat, and groin and knees. And it's kind of working on what is called the death line of the body. Okay? And it's eyes. And what's so cool about the eyeballs, and I'm sorry if I seem so passionate about what I do, which is to hurt people, that's not my goal. My goal is to teach you how to be effective in case of you have to perform legitimate self-defense. But the eyeball is a perfect round ball that fits inside the socket. Okay, so when you put your fingers in, the eyeball will get crushed and pop out. That's what that does. And so this is Bob. Usually when the girls come to class, if whoever their mate is got on their nerves, then his name changes. But for now, it's Bob. Okay? So his eyes, throat. And the throat is kind of like a C, like an eagle claw. And it's right here. So if I was to swallow, I could feel the Adam's apple or the larynx going up and down. And you can see it's pressing in. And unfortunately, Bob has tape on his because some of the students been cutting it with real knives. Ridiculous. I don't know why they did that, but that's why he has tape. So from here, and then I go down. So what I'm actually focusing on is the testicles. And if you pull it up, we just have a make-believe one. So this is rated PG. And the testicles is like hanging by a piece of skin. So I'm actually able to rip that more and faster and more effective than an actual penis. But that's only if he doesn't have pants on. If he have pants on, then I'll just pop, punch. Okay, and then of course the kneecap. The kneecap only goes one way, and that's forward. So when I kick the kneecap, I'm kicking it either in or to the side. And that's the way the knee cannot go. So as a martial artist, you have to have an understanding of the human anatomy. So you need to know where the liver is, where the kidneys are, okay, the spleen, and what type of effect you can do to the body. The next thing I want to talk about is a very effective weapon also that we have, which is called the elbows. In order for the elbows to work, they need to be tight. And look at this. I get to go back and forth. Isn't that cool? 1, 2. Okay, I can also go down as well as go up. And then I can go this way. So on this side, cross, hit, up, down, and this way. The tighter it is, this bone sticks out, and it's like a knife. It actually cuts. Also, I can use my knees. And the elbow and the knee is excellent for tight quarters. And normally, when someone's going to attack you, they're going to attack you, they're going to be on top of you. So here, I'm able to be effective, and I'm focusing on the floating rib, here, and here. And of course, the groin. Okay, from here, I might as well show you how you can choke somebody out with their own clothes. This is really cool, let me tell you. So from here, and it could be a coat, it could be a t-shirt, it doesn't make a difference. The goal is to put your hand all the way to the back, and then use your forearm to crush. You can see how Bob's face is starting to change. And I'm sure if he really was a human being, he would turn red. So from the other side, so you can get to see, and I'm crushing his legs. All right, let's fix him up. Okay. Hi. So I'm back again with Taib, one of our dedicated students, and he's willing to give himself to me so that I'm able to show you some techniques on some situations that might occur in the street. One of the things that I like to teach my girls is that anything in their purse, including the purse, can be a weapon. Okay? From their keys to a pen, pencil, nail file, perfume, they spray in their face, lipstick, and smoosh their face, especially their cell phone. Okay? The cell phone, if you think about it, and if I could just show you on Bob real quick, the cell phone this is metal. And the cell phone can be used forward and both sides. So you need to know the narrower areas. You make it narrower, okay? Hit the temple, okay? You can't really get the eyeball. You could damage it, but it's more hair, groin, and throat. So let's see how effective the cell phone can be, all right, in a street situation. All right, so he's going to come and he's going to choke and he's going to slap. So let's go a little slower where he chokes and slaps. So the first thing I did was I moved back. Let's go this way. So there's a choke and he's going to slap me. So the attempt is to choke and slap, where you slap the face, choke, and slap. And that's what some men will do to women. And once I get the choke, I stop this from here, okay? And then from here, I'm going to hit this with this. And this will loosen up this grip. Then I hit here, and hit there. Okay, let's do that again. I stop. I can also kick the knee, hit here, hit the groin, hit here. And then call the cops with a smile. Yeah, it's like a... I gotta turn my phone off because I'm calling people and stuff. I'm so sorry. So, I guess we'll go the other side. I'm gonna go slower. I'm just trying to, so you guys can have as much of an angle. So, after I block, or you could do a double choke with this. Double choke, hit. And then come around, hit, come around, bring down. Then call the cops. Okay. Hi, somebody fell down the stairs. They need help. Okay. Anyway, that's what you basically. What I'm showing you. Let me stand up. Is I can hit here. I can hit here. Hit here. Here. You know, just do a lot of damage, and I'm hitting with both sides. The same thing with a water bottle. Okay. So let's do a technique where he's choking me and I have nothing on my hands. And I have nothing on my hands. And if I do this, he's going to get close. He's going to get tighter. So remember I spoke to you about the knee? Kick the knee. And that loosens up the grip. Once I loosen up the grip, I can go after the throat, get in the groin, break the snapper's neck, and bring him down and stay. And I'll probably try to go after the crown jewels. I'll introduce you to my son. Come on in. This is my firstborn. He's also a martial artist. Been training actually all his life. This is Kiyumba. He's also an actor. He played in action scenes like Black Salt. So he actually, the martial arts has been an impact in his life for his career. Not to mention he's an amazing, strong man that I use as my mentor. Even though he's a grown man, he's like my hero as well. All right? I just want to introduce my son.
Thank you.
Okay, that was it.
All right.
Oh, all right, come on over here. I'm just going to introduce to you the founder of the system, who happens to be my husband. And this is C.J. Abdul-Takabir. He's like, what am I? He's like, my chopped liver? This is my baby here. And we've been together for 38 years, so that's why I've been training under him as long as that. He is my inspiration as well. And actually, I'm just going to have him show you real quick something that you do.
Hey, come on.
Just show me real quick. Just, you do something, whatever.
All right, well, come at any way you want to come at me. Come this way here. I'll take the knife. All right. You go double slice, you know where we go. I'll go here. Take the knife. Pop. Around here. Straight to the knee. Take the bone out. I got the knife. You go double strike on me. Right here. Cut his throat. Okay. Slide over here. That's going up there, right? Thank you.
Thank you.
So I wanted to thank you for joining us in our home. Not too many people that you go into their home and they have an actual dojo in their home like we do. And that's because martial arts is more to us than just a hobby. Martial arts is about a life choice of, it's about a lifestyle. I'm sorry, it's about a lifestyle that can help you make amazing choices. I just want to end by saying this. There are 3 types of individuals in our society. The bulk of the individuals are the sheep. And who are the sheep is the average person. There's nothing wrong with being a sheep because the sheep is very effective in our society. They go to work, they pay their bills, and they try to ignore that violence exists. They help each other if they can. But the sheep, unfortunately, are the prey to the wolves, which are 2% of our society. And the wolves is just they're repeated defenders. They are opportunists. They are bullies. And basically what they do is they go after the sheep any means necessary, any way necessary. And then there's the sheepdogs. And the sheepdogs have no problem with violence because they will deal with violence with violence. They are not as many as the sheep, of course, but they are the protector of the sheep, and they're more into the law enforcement type of fields. Now, my concern is that if your energy gives the persona that you're meek and that you're frail, you will be preyed upon by wolves. They will seek you out. They will smell you from the distance. So my goal is to convert the sheep into sheepdogs. Okay? Thank you.
Love and wellness. Life, love and wellness.
See, all the stars we can see us. Sometimes we don't reflect on the fact that we're being watched, by the universe. I mean, you lay out at night and look at all those stars can see you just as plain as they're like a hawk, you know what I mean? And they're only giving us one thing.
Love.
And life.
Love and life.
Light.
Love
Right?
and life.
Mm-hmm. And so that's what they want, because they want us to sustain ourselves forever, just like them. I mean, they don't want anything to change like that. They don't want us to become a square block. They don't want us to kill ourselves. It's like a suicide hotline, right? With all the star people. Keep this place alive. So they send in this light. The light reaches our atmosphere and turns into something called DNA, the blueprint for life on planet Earth. And I thought, what a great idea. This creator makes it available in all the flowers. So then the honeybees go to the flowers, bring the information, the eternal, lifelong information, back to their hives and share it with me. Share it with all beekeepers if they're willing to understand this process. And so then that message is in that bee pollen. That's how come you look like you every day, I look like me every day, the trees all look, nobody swaps DNA during the night, you know what I mean? We replicate ourselves in our own image every day. And so does the food, so does everything. And that's because the light so far has been consistently God-given. Once that we start using genetically modified organisms that are created in a laboratory somewhere, nobody has a clue about what the outcome is going to be, because they've just set something into motion that we've never tried before. So it's like we're part of this huge experiment. See what happens. Let's do this and see what happens. And so our people are spiritually embattled in this cause to keep things authentic and natural and the way it's always been in the life force. We don't need any extra chemicals. We don't need any toxins. We don't need those things. We need love. We need family. We need good food. We need good water. We need good air to breathe. That's what, that worked for millions of years. It's only been the past 5,000 or 10,000 years, which in the scheme of things is a long time, but not really when you think about millions of years, that we've become the people who are industrialized and who want to exploit the mother. Used to be we respected her, we thought it was sacred. But now it's, it's a resource. As opposed to our people who think she is the source of life. And so we're all approaching it poetically in different ways. That's one of the things we say up here at the Sweat Lodge when people get here. We say, the world is perfect. There's just a lot of people having a bad conversation. What if we went back out into the world with the consciousness and the intention to raise the level of our own personal poetry so that everything we said to each other was a reflection of what we truly hold dear in our hearts about what it means to be human and walking together right now on the earth. And we reflected in our conversation. Show me some love. You know what I mean? And just was living like that. And I know people who do. You actually have to become aware, you know, once you wake up. So you know, see where you are and what's going on, then you can respond appropriately. You accept the situation, you adapt to the situation, and then you accommodate the situation, and then you can move on. You can't move on until you do all three. Like if you're hanging out with a guy and he just got his stomach blowed out, and he's giving you pictures of his family to take to him because he knows he's dying and all that kind of stuff, and you're trying to stay with him and comfort him in his last minutes, and Sergeant comes up and says, you got to get on over there. They need you over there. You go, but my friend's dying. We don't want to leave anybody behind. They said, he's done for. Got to get it, accept it. He's dead. They need you over there. You still save somebody over there. You can't save him. And it's all like, you know. And so that's the adapting part. It ain't easy sometimes. But it ain't the strong ones that survive. It's the ones who can adapt. And that's how come we're standing here on this deck right now. Our people knew how to adapt long enough to have a family anyway. The essence of various flowers is the essence that flowers. It's kind of like musical keys. I need to have a G note. I need to have a C note. I need to have a D, maybe an A minor. You know what I mean? And so on some vibrational, energetic level, flowers are in that same harmonic field. And so we might give it another name. We might call it joy, pleasure, peace, you know, whatever it's called. It's a feeling, you know. That's what my grandfather used to say. He said, don't worry so much about what you're going to say, grandson. They're not going to remember what you said. They're only going to remember how you made them feel. And so that's the way flowers are. They make you feel good.
Yes.
And they can get very specific.
Yes.
And so, like if you are depressed, that's very specific. You don't want to be depressed anymore. There's flowers that can take you out of depression. There's lots of plants that can take you. A walk in nature can take you out of depression. Nature is just wanting you not to be depressed. You know, don't be. Look, life is all around you. What if everybody woke up in the morning realizing that they were in the same room with the woman they love more than anybody, and she was just about to give birth? Okay? And you have a choice. How am I going to behave? I'm in the room. I'm loving this woman like crazy. She's about to have a baby. How can I help? Right? I talk a little softer maybe. I move a little slower. Maybe I tiptoe. I want her to feel sweet and safe, right? Well, that woman, my people tell me, that woman is Mother Earth. And she's always giving birth. And we're right in the room. We're right in the middle of it. We're just going to ignore it, or we're going to try to comfort her and help her while she's doing this incredible life. I mean, think about all the life force on this planet and what Mother Earth has to go through to replicate herself in her own image every day worldwide.
Thank you for being with us today. And we know that you enjoyed our awesome, incredible speakers. And we certainly appreciate you as being a part of this groundbreaking historic event. And so we invite you to tomorrow, perhaps invite a couple more of your friends over, or how about at your church or your synagogue or your mosque, invite people and have a viewing party so that you can have a discussion afterwards. And so we look forward to being with you tomorrow with another group, anywhere from 5 to 7 incredible individuals that's going to share of their expertise, their love, their passion, because our speakers cover a wide variety of subjects, and it's things that you can immediately put into effect in your life. So thank you for being with us. We'll see you tomorrow.